Let's see. What do I need to have with me to tour an apartment? These are horrible.
But highly, everyone needs to know you need to bring an ID. No matter what, I can't tell you how many people will show up and they're like, can I just go without one? And I'm like, no, it has to be a government issued ID. It can't just be like just some random picture. Or they're not going to tour you, like no matter what. They don't care if you're from out of the country, you drove 2 hours.
You drove 2 hours without your ID. Like, come on,
Yeah, like
people.
you can't, they're not going to tour with you. So that's essential to do when you're touring. And another one would be get a quote before you leave. Like you always want to get a quote because those last 48 hours. So if the prices go up the next day, they're going to honor the ones that, they gave you that day when you toured. And if they go lower the next day, then they're going to honor the lower price. But you always want to get the quotes. That's a thing. And then 3 for that would be always go with the intent of looking and leasing because they run look and lease specials that only last 24 to 48 hours. And if you decide not to pull the plug on that, then you're losing out on, getting help with money, prorating a special or an extra gift card. Like you always want to go with the intent of looking and leasing or else don't go.
Has there been a case where someone toured an apartment, there was an opportunity for a look and lease special within like 48 hours. They came back a couple weeks later and they're like, could we get that special again?
And usually
Will they pull it?
Usually it's a no because I've called leasing agents and they're like, if they toured within a 6-month time frame, they're not going to honor the look and lease special. They'll still honor the special for the month, just not the 24 to 48 hour one, because that's the goal. They want you to lease then. If
and they'll
not,
lose
then
all credibility.
If not, that doesn't make sense. They'd be like, okay, come back in a few weeks and we'll honor it. Like, okay, so why do you call it 24 to 48 hours if I can come back, So I've called multiple places and they're like, if they tour within 6 months and they come back to try to sign again, we will not honor those. So I always tell clients, hey, there is a time frame to go look. If you're not ready to pull the trigger, don't go yet. Or if they don't have your move-in date or your prices for when you're wanting to move in, don't go and tour. Because then again, we're going to miss out on the look and lease specials because you toured too soon and they don't even know pricing and availability for your time frame. So there's always like a right way of going through things. And that's why I feel like going with an apartment locator that knows when to go, when the perfect time is vital.
When's the perfect time?
Probably 60 to 90 days before. And I say probably because like with 90 days, that's for newer apartments. And the reason they can hold units longer for you because the buildings are all vacant. So if you're not moving within 90 days, like they will have something for your time frame. And I say 60 for older properties that already have, all their units filled out and they give those current tenants a 60-day notice. That's when, they'll let us know what's coming available. So if it's new construction, 90. If it's old construction, 60.
Releasing.
Releasing, yeah.
Gotcha.
Exactly. What about with houses?
See, with houses, it's different where usually, and I would say this is probably about 75% of the time, the landlord doesn't put the property on the market for lease until it becomes vacant. And then once it's vacant, like they want someone immediately. So I usually tell someone who's looking for a private owner house, really, we can't start shopping until you're within a month of moving because they want someone to move within like 2 weeks of that application.
Okay.
Because they just don't want to lose money on it.
Right.
Now, sometimes you'll get a case where there's still tenants in the property and then like 30 days from then it'll be vacant and they'd really rather someone swap over fast where their tenants move out. There's like 2-3 days for cleaning and then a new person moves in. So unfortunately, when it comes to private owner properties, I'm sorry if you're moving from another state and, you want to have all your ducks in a row. But really, if you're trying to shop more than a month ahead of time, the best I can offer you is we can look at some properties that we could find similar ones of when the time comes. And so I'll get some people who will be, coming from Chicago, New York, whatever. They want to get all their ducks in a row to move to Austin.
Right.
And they want to do it like 3 months ahead of time. I'll say, okay, well, with this price range, I know that when the time comes, there will still be other opportunities
Yeah.
that look like this. So we're going to see the neighborhoods. We're going to see some properties. And if they say, okay, this is what I want, this house, but I want it in that time frame, well, now I know what I'm looking for.
Okay.
So, 2 weeks before they're ready to move, then I can go FaceTime them
Okay.
some tours, and I can say, look, this one looks exactly like the one you wanted.
Perfect. That's what I was going to ask you, if you like FaceTime people from out of town, usually, if they can't make a decision in person.
Yeah, so I love when I get people from out of town because I find they're very loyal. They listen to everything I say,
Right.
as if it's the Bible. I love it. Yeah, so I always ask them, I say, are you planning on coming in to look at places before signing a lease, or are you just going to trust my opinion mixed with, some videos?
Right.
I would say most people actually want to come look at it in person. So they'll usually take my advice on locations.
Okay.
But in the end, they want to feel themselves in the house. Like, yeah, it's a year lease, but a year to some people is a long time.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because that's kind of what I ask my clients too. I'm like, do you want like a generalized list, or do you want me to really be specific and me pinpoint exactly when and where you're going to live? So I kind of like that you do that too.
Do you find that people react better when you send them, a list with 3 to 5 properties or a list with 20 properties?
It just really depends on the person, because there's some people that I feel like they think that I'm holding back information and they're like, no, I want to see everything, and then there's other people that are like, well, why did you send me a whole list? I could have done that on Google. Like, I thought you were going to give me a little something more specific. So that's why I like, because everyone's different. So I really like to ask, like, well, what would you prefer? Would you rather me send you 50 places and you make a decision and then I tell you specifics about it? Or would you rather me really narrow it down? Like, you don't have time, you're trusting me. So everyone's different. So I like to give them the option.
I agree. I think some people are shoppers and they love shopping.
Yeah.
And then I think there's other people who are just far too busy for that.
Right.
I've learned as I've gotten older to, when I ask for a professional's opinion, to just do what the professionals.
Yeah.
And there's some times where it's like, yesterday I had to meet an electrician at my client's property, and I estimated the work that they were going to get done in order to purchase this house was going to be, I felt like it was going to be under $2,500. The first electrician's quote came in at $12,730.
No.
I said, okay, I need a second opinion. And the next guy came in at $1,960. Same work, 2 different companies. This happens with like air conditioning companies.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can't always trust a professional, but yeah, I mean, especially
but you can trust us.
Yeah, I mean, there's some people, because you don't make the prices.
Yeah.
My insurance agent doesn't make the prices. So I find that your opinion matters a lot more than a company where they're in charge of making their own markups and prices.
Yeah. And I also ask my client, like, hey, if you've come across anything that you personally like now we're teaming up now that you've contacted me, right? It's not like me versus you. I'm like, if anything has popped up or if you drive around, just tell me and I'm happy to get you more information. Like, that's what I'm here for. And I can give you feedback and I can tell you why you should, why you shouldn't. Because I know a lot of locators sometimes might just try to push you to a certain place for the commission and they're not really thinking about like the client. And for me, it's like, I want to be treated like how I would want someone to treat me. Just like, be honest. Like, it's not about the commission. Like, I want your honest feedback. And, if you're able to give me that, then I'm going to like for sure trust you. So that's why I like to send as many options as possible. Or if they give me stuff that doesn't even work with locators, I'm like, that's okay. Even if you go with a place that didn't pay us, I'm fine. If that's what's going to make you happy, let's do it,
Yeah, I'm always, when I am working with apartment people, which hopefully continues to get more and more rare, but it's also nice to just keep my feet wet and just remember what's happening. I find that there's where was I getting at here? I had something great planned.
It's okay. It might come back.
What were you just saying right before that? The place that don't pay commission.
Yeah.
So I'll tell them up front, like, and I don't use don't pay commission. I always say, like, this place doesn't work with agents.
Same.
Unfortunately, I won't be able to support you and tour you here. That being said, I want you to love where you live. If Windsor is where you want to live,
Yeah.
Windsor, you suck. And they don't pay me commissions, you can still go see it.
Yeah.
And if you like it, I'll understand.
Right.
Obviously, I'd rather you go to one that works with me, of course.
Yeah.
Because that's how I make money. But if not, maybe you'll send me your friend,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, that's what I tell them. I'm like, unfortunately, they don't work with us. But if that's where you want to go, I still schedule their tours because I don't want to just drop the ball and be like, oh, they're not working with us. Good luck. Like, I still like to finish the process. I'll still have a utility company that reaches out, set up all their utilities for free. Usually I give them a gift card at move-in personally. Not every locator does that. But yeah, I still want to treat them as much as I can. I'm not just going to drop them. But yeah, if they happen to have any friends moving too, I'm like, that's for me is the biggest thank you can give me for all the other work.
Yeah, reviews and referrals.
Yeah, exactly.
That's very generous to give them a gift card if it's a place that wasn't even paying you.
Well, that's the thing. I don't give them the gift card if they weren't, but I still have a utility company that sets everything up for free, Because I don't want to just be like, well, good luck, I still want to give them good customer service. So
that is really nice.
Okay, so Chase, when it comes to, I think every time I talk to a client, they think they're probably going to do a deposit of like $250 or something on a house. Like, what is it the same like credit? If they have evictions and felonies, does that still apply to houses? Because some people are like, maybe I can get away with that if I go to a rental property. So I kind of want to know what the deposit, like what, I guess, kind of the rules are when applying.
That's a benefit of apartments versus private owner properties. So what I would say probably 99% of private owner properties, your security deposit is going to be the same as your first month's rent. As in, when you sign the lease, say the property is $2,500 a month. When you sign the lease, you're going to pay $2,500 to secure it. Then the day before move-in, you're going to pay another $2,500. It's not the same money, but the same amount. Twice. Unfortunately, landlords have to cover their butts, and most apartments have swapped to the deposit insurance type of thing where you pay $99. Whatever happens, they take the fall for it, which is great. I wish private owner landlords could do the same, but unfortunately, there's probably a lot more damage someone could do to someone's house versus the apartment where they have maintenance staff on site all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So landlords, I mean, it's refundable, provided there's no damage.
Right.
A landlord's description of damage is variable. So some landlords might say, okay, scuffed up the floors, the carpets are, stained, the walls have holes in them. Oh, it's fine. Just move out.
Yeah.
And then others will say, well, you owe me for this and this and this and this, and I want new carpets and I want new paint.
Okay.
Unfortunately, you're dealing with a private person and they get to make their own rules.
Okay.
I've never seen anyone move out of a property where I've been working with either the tenant or the landlord and them have to pay more than the security deposit.
Okay.
Which also, people who have, ESAs,
which is everyone these days.
Yeah, I don't know anyone with a dog that is not an ESA. Of course, yeah, you want to save some money on pet rent, pet deposit. How many of those ESAs are necessary? Whatever. I'll leave that to them to decide. I don't want to judge. It's a fair housing dispute.
Yeah.
But, by law, we're not allowed to charge deposit and stuff. If your dog does damage, it comes out of the security deposit anyway. Mm-hmm. So that's what I have to tell landlords. Like, a dog's not going to do $2,500 damage. Children will do $2,500 of damage. Unfortunately, due to fair housing laws, you can't have a child deposit, whereas you can have a pet deposit for a cat that just lays on the sofa all day.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
But I am more weary of families with kids who have the easiest time getting accepted into properties than I am weary of college students or young professionals or people with aggressive breed dogs. And I found that some of my like young professionals straight out of college have been the best tenants ever because they know that they're already being looked at very harshly. It's already really tough for them to get accepted, especially when you got like 4 roommates.
Oh,
You have to
yeah.
combine all their incomes to make rent.
Right.
Something else with apartments versus private owner houses is like with apartments, if you have 2 roommates, the apartment application will combine their incomes together, even
Right.
if they're not in a relationship or a family.
Okay.
With private owner houses, they're not obligated to do that. So they'll
did not
either
know that.
if it's a married couple, they can combine them. If it's family, brother sister, they can combine them. If it's roommates, they can choose whether or not they want to or not.
What?
And so that's the way that they discriminate over college students and young people. But
That's
usually I
good to
find
know.
that the young professionals, usually they know that if they get accepted, they really need that landlord recommendation for their next property so that they
Okay.
can get a place for themselves. So they're usually going to be really good tenants.
Wow. I did
There's
not
outliers
know
for sure.
any
There's,
of that.
when you're dealing with 22-year-olds, there are outliers. There will be horrible kids. But
Okay.
That's
That's good. What about like evictions, broken leases, felonies? Same thing.
it's very tough. Yeah, just
Okay.
like it's very tough to find apartments that will accept those things, but there are apartments that will accept them. There's landlords where their level of comfort is different.
Okay.
There's some, slumlords where they've been renting out the same like in 1960s houses over and over, never done any work to them. They don't really care who moves in. If they pay the deposit and rent, they're fine with it. Turn it into a trap
Okay.
house. Those landlords are kind of tough
Do
to
you
find.
know? Okay, I was about to say, do you know a lot of those?
I wish I knew more because I'd have more people to place there. It's tough. If someone has evictions and felonies, like
Okay,
it's
so
kind
it's
of
a
tough to
thing.
rent.
Okay, and then how long does it usually take for you to find if it's like a rental property? Can a couple days, a week, weeks?
I would say if you're like most people I work with, we probably go out and view like 4. I would say over the course of one afternoon.
Okay.
And then either they're picking one or they're like, okay, well, there's a couple more that I want to see. It's pretty rare that I'm showing someone like 30 properties. Honestly, for
Yeah.
buyers, it's pretty rare I'm showing someone 30 properties because usually I've already kind of done the due diligence up front. You know how you're able to immediately recommend apartments. Like, I
Yeah.
can't really do it with houses since they're all different.
Yeah,
But-
exactly.
But if someone says, I want this convenience, let me just use someone I know as an example.
Okay.
So my clients, Colton and Nicole, they said, we want this convenience to, well, actually, they're like this convenience to downtown. We want it to be under $600,000. We wanted a backyard. We want kind of an older house with some character. We need a room for his drum set, but we also need an office, but we don't want more than 4 bedrooms. And I was like, all right, well, take all this together. I think you could be in this suburb, this one, or this one, and let's start there. And they're like, oh, yeah, we really like Oak Hill. We'd already been looking there. Let's start there.
Okay.
And, we probably viewed, I think we only went out for 3 days, saw like 5 houses a day, which is kind of a lot. And yeah, they were able to decide on one right off, after the 3rd day. Yeah, with rentals, I find it's probably way less than that. I would say on average, it's like 3.
Oh, wow.
And there's plenty where like when I'm representing the landlord, I'm putting, I put the property on the market for lease and we get application through Zillow, someone who's never, someone who's moving fresh to Austin and they're the person who ends up leasing it.
Okay.
That happens all the time.
Perfect.
So who knows how many properties they've seen.
Do you recommend a certain amount per day? Like you're like 4 to 5. After that, it gets a little ridiculous like we do.
I will tell anyone that once you've seen more than 4, you've forgotten what the first 2 looked like.
Yeah.
Unless they're absolutely standout. So anytime I'm showing someone, and it happens when we get like out of town buyers who are like, hey, I'm only here for 1 weekend. Like I would love to be able to find something this weekend.
Yeah.
Believe me, I'm clearing my weekend. We're going to find them something that weekend. But if we're viewing 8 properties, we're going to see 4 or 5 in the morning. We're going to stop for lunch for an hour. Then we'll see the rest in the afternoon. Ideally, for me and for them, I really don't want to show more than 6 in a day because, 1, I'm going to be burned out as hell.
Yeah.
And 2, they're going to completely forget the first couple.
I agree. I always tell them the same, like, let's do 5. If those don't really work out and you think they're all atrocious for whatever reason, then we'll entertain the next 5. But this whole, like you said, it's burnout. Like, I do it all the time. After 5, I'm like, I can't even think. I don't even know what I just toured. Like, I'm done. I'm exhausted. So, yeah, more than 5 is just a no-go. Like, that's what I recommend. 5 or less. If those don't work out, we'll entertain the rest the next day, right? So they don't lose out on look and leave specials just in case they backtrack and like something from the day before, you know?
Yeah. The other ones I get, which are always a marathon, so I'll get someone who says, I want to buy a new build house in, let's say, Easton Park or, Manor, a place that has, or like Plum Creek, a place with a lot of builders in one neighborhood. So Easton Park is my best example. They have 6 different builders in this neighborhood. So usually it'll be like, okay, we got all Saturday free. Let's set up appointments with each one. When you go tour a new builder, you're starting with a consultation with the rep, then their model home, then they're going to take you around and, following them in your car to probably 5 different models of houses, all within different levels of construction. So some are like, framed, and then some are move-in ready. And if we've scheduled 4 different builder consultations, you're probably seeing 20 houses those days. No. Hopefully there's one that stands out because most people are like, I am so exhausted.
And with new construction, do they offer like kind of like apartments? Like
they kind of do. They always have a if you do it this weekend, we give you this. Yeah. They definitely do the same kind of.
So would you recommend clients going to new construction?
That depends on the client. So I've had people who said, my main worry of owning a house is the maintenance on the house. I want to make sure I get something that's not going to have any problems, or for one that's least likely to have problems for the first couple of years I lived there, and then they want to get the sales incentives. So similar how apartments will offer 6-8 weeks free, builders are offering your first year you get a interest rate of 4% or something, and the builder will pay to buy down the interest rate.
Right.
Or they'll say, you'll get an extra $10,000 of closing credit or something. So if someone's really budget conscious and conscious about the home potentially needing repairs, that's what I'm usually suggesting we should be looking at new builds. If someone has the money to do whatever, and they're not, something breaks, they're okay, they'll fix it. That's when, I kind of want to understand them more, because the thing is, I personally don't like new build communities because of the aesthetics. All the houses are close together. There's no trees. You can't open your eyes outside because the concrete is so bright. But on the other hand, the homes are brand new. They're all covered with a 10-year warranty. Nothing's going to break on them for the first couple years.
Right.
And if something does, the builder comes and fixes it. That's really nice. There's definitely some peace of mind there. Most new build communities also they usually have a nice pool, community center type of thing.
HOA fees.
For sure. So I personally prefer the character and the larger lot size of getting a resale house. Some people don't care about that. They would rather the convenience.
I like the older home with the charm.
New build communities are not anywhere near city center. They're in the suburbs.
That's true.
Because to build new, you got to build out.
Is there a good time to buy kind of like apartments? Like, I guess I get the question is like, when is the best time to lease? And technically the answer is like you never know. It really just depends how full an apartment is, because if they're running really good specials and all that good stuff. But usually I say after doing this 10 years, winter is still the best time during Thanksgiving, during Christmas, because people are more focused to being with their families. They're not really moving, so apartments are going to run those extra specials. They're going to drop the rates like a couple $100s, which makes a huge difference. So I always try to tell my clients, like, hold off, make your lease end around like December sort of, or winter, you know, and you're going to get the best rate. Is that the same for homes?
Yes, probably
Okay.
for different, I guess for kind of the same reason. So if someone only cares about money,
Okay.
and there's absolutely people,
Yeah.
there's some just so analytically focused people, then yeah, Halloween through New Year's.
Okay.
And
I
not
agree.
a day after New Year's, because
That's when
I
people-
would have to take a wild guess. One of the most popular New Year's resolution is buy a house.
Yeah.
Because I get such a great pop of people at the very start of the year, and then I get a great pop of people in like April.
Okay.
Those are absolutely like the best times. The reason that most people shop for homes in the spring is like you just get the most listings in the spring. I think the main reason is like homes just show the best when the plants are bloomed, and also I think a lot of people have the intention of, well, my kids are going to graduate and now I'm going to sell the house.
Right.
I think you also, when you signed your very first lease, was probably at the beginning of a summer. You had just graduated from college, and then your lease has been renewing every year. And then there's just getting naturally more buyers in the market at the start of spring.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's probably many reasons. But to answer your question, between Halloween and New Year, if someone still has their home on the market, they're not selling for fun. Like, they're selling because they need to sell.
Okay.
This is a new term I've been using lately, selling for fun. Selling for fun is what we were doing in 2021, where I was telling a seller, you can make $150,000 off this house you bought 2 years ago if you sell right now. And they're like, well, that's money to my ear.
Yeah.
I guess I will. I don't care about this house that much.
Yeah.
But yeah, if someone's selling between Halloween through New Year's, during Thanksgiving, during Christmas, having to get out of your house during those busy times where you usually have company, or you're on vacation and someone's, watching your dog at your house and you have to figure out how to get the animal out.
Yeah.
So someone can see your house and they really want it sold.
Okay.
So that's it.
So winter. Okay. And then another thing, when I was doing residential for a little bit, something I feel like our clients should know is that sometimes when you are in a lease and you're kind of about to get out, let's just say in 2 or 3 months, sometimes the seller is willing to maybe potentially, or you could put it like as a negotiation, to pay for the rest of your lease, or to break it essentially in order to like move into a house, right? Because then you don't have to pay for that mortgage for 60 days? Am I wrong?
Yeah. So your first mortgage payment, if you close on, let's say you close on August 1st, your first payment will be due on October 1st. And it's not a double payment, it just skips 1 month.
Okay.
So if someone's ever like on the cusp of like, we could set the closing date for, end of August or first day of September, I'm going to tell them, hey, just letting you know, if you close August 30th, your first payment's October 1st. If you close September 1st, your first payment's November 1st. So use that to your advantage however you want.
Right.
As far as getting out of the lease, you probably know better with apartments, but they usually have, like a reletting fee. If like you pay this amount, you can leave.
Yeah.
If someone's coming from a private owner property, you're dealing with the lease that the landlord or landlord's property manager or their agent wrote. So kind of comes down to whatever's in there. So
Okay.
when I write a lease for a landlord, I'll usually put like the only way to get out of the lease is by finding a new tenant. And so
Okay.
when I write a lease, I'll say, if tenant finds the subletter, they'll pay 50% of a month's rent to the landlord. So that covers all the background checks and stuff, because landlord still needs to background check the other person.
Okay.
To get a lease. If landlord or landlord's agent have to find the next tenant, will charge, a full month's rent to be removed because my commission needs to be applied. I'm still doing the work to find a new person. And then we're going to have to do a cleaning and some other things to get the new person in. So that's usually the only way I can get people out of their lease. So I have some clients who they're under contract on their home they're purchasing. They actually leased a property through me, a property that the previous the owners previously purchased their second home with me. So it's actually a great line right there. I had someone call me. He said, I want to buy this house. And he said, I also still live in this house. I sold him new house. I put his old house on the market. I had new tenant move into their house, and now I'm selling new tenant a new house.
That would be a lot.
What's fun is I'm going to get their house leased again, and hopefully it's with someone else who wants to buy it again.
Yeah, that's
dream.
great. That is the dream.
But anyway, they asked me. They said, "Hey, I'm still in this lease for another year. What do we do? Because we want to buy this house now."
Yeah.
And I said, "I agree. Don't waste the money on the lease for a year. Just go ahead and buy and start building equity." So, I'm about to put that house on the market for a lease for them, and I'm going to do it for free. I just want to, get them the new house. So I'm even going to pay the tenant's agent's commission out of my own pocket just because I know the landlord's not going to want to pay it because that person's still in lease. I don't want to make the tenant pay it when he's about to pay a whole bunch of money for a house.
Okay.
So in short, your agent can get pretty creative.
Yeah. Literally. And then, so when would you recommend people that are leasing apartments, when is the best time to start talking to you, for example, in order to because a lot of people don't know what they need. They need their ducks in a row. So what are those ducks? So when they talk to you, should they be ready? Or are you going to tell them the steps? How long does it take to get ready to be able to buy, I guess?
Yeah, I usually say 6 months would be ideal.
Okay.
If we're within 3 months, we can still do it. But we're going to be rushing a little bit.
Okay.
But yeah, I just had some clients who their lease ends October 10th. And we just started the home buying process 2 weeks ago. So they basically gave me 2 months. And I was like, if y'all can snap to a decision, we can do it.
Okay.
But you got to snap fast.
But wait, why do we say that we're rushing if technically you said with rental properties, for example, you only have a month, right? You should start looking a month before.
Oh, wait, is this to purchase?
Well, yeah, but to purchase, why do you need 3 months?
Oh, okay, I got you here.
Or minimum 3 months.
Yeah. So the first process is they're going to meet with me and I'm going to figure out what they're looking for. I'm going to learn about them. Then we need to get them pre-approved for a loan. So some people already have all of their income and ongoing debt documents prepared and they can apply for the loan right away. Some it's going to take them some effort to go to HR and get all their documents to prove their income.
Okay.
And so getting pre-approved, some people, they'll have it done in one day. Some people, it takes them a week just because it took them so long to get their documents together. So I want to give it the most time possible. They're going to set up a meeting with Matt and they're going to, talk about loan qualifications and stuff. Sometimes, scheduling things, give it a couple days.
Yeah.
Once we're pre-approved, which hopefully we can have all this done in a week, then we're going to start looking at homes. Usually I start sending people properties and I would say we don't actually go out and see a property. Most people will be just looking at stuff for probably a week or two before they actually want to go see something. Usually once we see the first thing, then they get kind of on a roll.
Yeah.
They realize that it's not scary to look at a house. And I've had some people that literally looked at one house and bought that house. It's not even that crazy. Especially with a younger generation like Gen Z, people are so used to buying everything online anyway that we're okay with shopping for a house online. It's nobody expected Carvana to work out.
Yeah.
And it's been going fine because we're okay with shopping online. So some people have looked at one house, but then I've had some people who've looked at 40 houses.
Okay.
I've never set what the record was. I just feel like it's about 40. And so those people are going to take a while. Like, we're not viewing 10 in a day. Like, that's probably over the course of when they're off of work, which is going to be, maybe an evening we'll squeeze in like 3, or a Saturday we'll squeeze in 5. And then once we decide on one to make an offer on, it'll probably take 2-3 days before we've made an agreement with the seller on the contract. Then we need at least 30 days to close.
Okay.
So, yeah, check
Got
that how
it.
you want. So,
Okay.
I like 6 months.
6 months,
But
clients.
if someone came to me in 3 months, I would say, like,
You're
as
going to
long
make it
as
happen.
as long as you're ready to.
Okay. Okay. And then with that being said, so I kind of have, well, I don't have a bad habit now because I have you, right? But before, when I would drive around and look at properties, I would just call the number on there and I would just start spewing information like, this is how much money I have.
You're their dream.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of when I clarify with like potential clients, right? Because sometimes they'll start calling people. They're starting to say all the information that they have or what they want or whatever. So I guess, why is it important to have a realtor, and should you start calling, or should they tell you, hey, this is the property, I saw this number? Like, what are, I guess, like the rules? Because a lot of people don't know. They start calling, kind of like apartment locating. They'll start shopping around with multiple locators. And then I'm like, hey, we all have access to the same system. I'm here to provide you the best customer service, but only one of us is going to get credit. And, I value each of my clients that I take on. It takes time, and I don't want you to be working with multiple agents, because if that's the case, then like, I'm not going to work with you, unfortunately, So is that the same thing with having a realtor? Like, what should they do and what should they not do?
Yeah. So if you're driving around calling the physical signs and you're calling the listing agent, and, in Texas, since in some states, the listing agent is allowed to also represent the buyer. It's called dual agency, where I have one of my licenses in Louisiana. That's totally okay. They feel like an agent can truly be unbiased to both parties. In Texas, they don't agree with that because they're reasonable. It's tough to be unbiased to both parties. So if you're calling a listing agent and you're saying, hey, I want to buy the house, through you, or even I want to see the house through you.
Right.
Their fiduciary duty is to their seller. That's when they have the signed contract. They can't have a signed contract to represent you as well. So, they're really not allowed to give you hardly any information. The only information they can give you is what's factually, written online. So they're not going to help you negotiate. They're not going to tell you what the seller's like low price is.
Yeah.
They're, when it comes time to, ask for repairs and stuff, like, good luck. They're going to hose you in the seller's best interest, as they're supposed to do. They're supposed to be fighting for the seller. So for that reason, that's when you should have your own representation. It's like the equivalent of going to court without a lawyer. It's like you are about to die. You will be in jail.
Yeah.
So you want someone else to negotiate for you, someone else to tell you about the ins and outs. Most people buy a house 2-3 times in their life. I'm helping 3 or 4 people a month close on a house. On my good months. On my bad months, maybe less. But yeah, so you want to make sure that you're, that you have someone negotiating for you and someone explaining what you're doing. Now, if you're virtually looking at houses, let's say you're scrolling Zillow and you see the number there, it'll be very, very small print. It'll say listing agent number. Most people completely don't see that, and they see this big tab that says Premier Agent. Well, that's a marketing tool. People pay anywhere from $7,000 to $30,000 a month to have their face appear on listings, and someone calls that number thinking it's a listing agent. Instead, it's a buyer's agent, and they'll say, yeah, I'll come show you the property. Well, that's a buyer's agent just trying to get business. There's nothing wrong with that agent. They'll do their job. But you can't go call 10 different ones, because now with our new NAR settlement, the first one's going to present to you a document that you're going to need to sign in order to even walk in this house. And that's going to say something to the effect of one of the two. It'll say, if you buy this specific house, that agent is your agent. Or it'll say, if you buy any house, that agent is your agent.
Okay.
A lot of people love checking boxes for terms and conditions without reading. And I think that's going to be something that ends up getting slipped in to like terms and conditions pretty soon.
Okay, so moral of the story
is work with one person because otherwise you are going to be forced with working with the first person that you
I love that. Stick to that one person. Like, it's just a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and same with locators. It's like, yeah, you could call the apartments individually, but why? Like, why make your life more tough?
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, well, that's good to know because, and here's another thing too, which I've heard of. I don't have a lot of experience in it, but typically, let's just say you take your client to go look at a house. There are some houses that are recording like what you say in there, right? So do you recommend that you tell your clients, hey, let's talk when we leave about the property so that if the sellers are listening in on what you can or cannot do with buying the home, like you're already putting yourself in a predicament?
You never,
is that true?
Never speak in front of the front door. That's for sure.
Okay, good to know.
A lot of people have Ring cameras. But also, yeah, they're supposed to disclose that, but...
Right.
Yeah, so are the people who are spying on their Airbnbs and the people who spy in hotel rooms. Like, cameras are small and recording can always exist. So, I more remind people of that when it's a house that's occupied. I'll say, you're allowed to open cabinets. That's a fixture in the house. You're allowed to open closets.
Yeah.
Don't touch your stuff, which most people are super respectful and they won't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I tell that to people who have kids with them. Don't let their kids touch your stuff.
Okay.
Or adults that act like kids. There was an agent in, I'm going to take a shot, it's probably California or Florida, who was going to show a house. I presume it was a hot day. They opened up the seller's refrigerator, took a gallon of milk out, and drank out of the gallon of milk, put it back in the fridge, and closed it before his clients got there. He was fined like $15,000.
No.
Which I would assume that the seller recording probably wouldn't say a word if he took out a cup, filled it with water, or even filled it with milk.
Yeah.
It was the disrespect.
Yeah,
drinking.
I would have too. I would have been like, that's 15.
But I know an agent. I'm not going to put him on blast by any means. I don't even know if he's still in business, but he had opened like a seller's drawer that was her lingerie drawer. And I don't think he was looking through it. I think he was genuinely just like interested in the dresser or something. And he's just, regardless, if they think you're snooping on their stuff, you can get caught. Most people have cameras. So I'm not worried about talking about negotiations, talking about if they like or hate the home. So what?
Okay.
I mean, now if we're talking like offer strategy, I don't like saying we're going to come in low because we're okay with going up. I don't really want to talk about that in their house.
Okay.
But if someone says, oh my God, I love this and this, that's fine. Whatever. Or if they're like, oh, this is stupid. Well, whatever. The seller probably knows it's stupid.
Okay, well, that's good to know because I feel like I don't know a lot of these things, so I'm sure a lot of our clients don't either. But when you are touring apartments, if you're touring the model room, you can always open the fridge, take snacks, take all the drinks. That's the best part of apartments. You can do that at apartments in the model rooms. They're not going to care. That's what they're there for.
Oh, they want you to.
Yeah, they're like, take everything. I mean, and it's wild how now they have like champagne and wine, and I'm like, okay.
Have you toured Medina Highlands?
Yes.
And they give you the cocktail menu when you walk in? I'm like, all right, let's go.
Yeah, like they want you to make decisions like right then and there. I mean, could be good.
And honestly, I think the mimosa and Austin East Cider that my clients had made them sign that $2,000.
But is that allowed to get your client kind of, well, they're probably not going to get.
What, car salespeople do it?
Drunk?
No, nobody's getting drunk on one
That's
drink.
That's true. I was going to say, if they're there for a long time sipping on their mimosas, they're like, just sign. I don't know.
That's
I'm just
definitely
saying.
against the law. But also they don't give you the lease on the same day, you know.
That's true.
The
You
most
can
they could
regret it.
possibly do is say apply, but I don't even feel like I ever see apartments that just like have a computer at the desk.
No, not anymore.
There was a time.
There was. Like, you had to do it in person or paper. Like, now everything, you can do it on the website. And that's why I tell my clients, when you go look, like, go with the intention of leasing, because if you're seeing this unit, there are so many people seeing the same unit, and it's the first one that fills it out on the website. And a lot of people don't tour. They don't have to. It's the first one to put in the application fees, takes it off the market, and then they use that time to look into like your background, like your financials, all that, to then get you fully approved, to then give you the lease. So I think a lot of my clients like don't understand that. Like, that's why as locators, we're not trying to pressure you to like force you to get into it, but we're just like also like, there's so many people that look at apartments that we want you to get a good deal. And if you love it, fill out the application.
I try to tell people very similar things. Like, I never want to pressure you into buying something. And like,
Yeah,
I hope I've never come off that way.
exactly.
But there's definitely been times where I'm like, this is exactly what you're looking for. But I sense that you have cold feet about it.
Yeah.
And I think you just need someone to tell you it's okay to jump.
Right.
But people are nervous.
I know. And then this is the thing.
And
Then
I just want to help with their nerves. So I'm like, what
Same.
questions can I help you with?
Same. I'm like, what is that? And I even tell them, listen, and it's okay to hesitate, but if you don't want anyone else to take it, I'm like, fill out the application. Worst case scenario, you cancel. Yes, you lose the application and administration fee, but at least no one else was able to take it from your hands, sort of a thing. And that's exactly like what you said. Like, I'm not trying to pressure you, nor do I wish that you think that I'm doing this to just get something out of you. It's like, we've looked at everything. These are the best options. This is what they have. Like, you either jump or someone else is gonna do it, you know? So
Do you find that the clients with the lowest budget are the most needy and picky?
I'm gonna say those
I have theories
and
on
the
this.
ones that have the most. Like, the both opposites of the spectrum are the neediest, I think, personally. And I think the ones that are just in the middle, like, are easier to work with. For sure. Because I've had clients that have really high budgets, and it's like everything has to also be to the T, and it's not easy, you know? So I got both sides.
Interesting. I've found that my easiest clients are the one, when it comes to rentals, are the ones with the most money. Because, and like my theory, and like the toughest ones have been the ones with the least money. Nothing against you who earn less.
Nothing.
Everything against you who are needy. But an agent actually was venting to me about this today. And I said, the ones who are renting the $900 apartment, that's like probably a third of their income. And that's a third of their pre-tax income. Off their legitimate post-tax income, that's probably half. Like, that is a huge payment for them every month, that $900. You got someone who's renting the Austin downtown high-rise for $3,000 a month. That person probably makes $15,000, $20,000 a month. And that payment is much smaller by comparison to them. Like, I rarely find someone exactly qualifies for like a $3,000 apartment. Like, it's usually people who earn way more.
Yeah.
And so that's like maybe 10 or 15% of their income. It's just not as big of a deal. They have more important fish to fry. That was the main reason I brought it up. But then again, when it comes to home buying, I've had some of my most difficult, I'd still say my most difficult people are the ones at the very bottom of the price point, just because there's not a lot of options. And if anything needs to be fixed, like, they don't really have the money to pay for it to be fixed.
Yeah.
The hero window needs to be caulked, and they're like, how am I going to financially recover from this trip to Home Depot?
Right.
Whereas like my $2 million people don't even show up to the inspection. But when we were looking at the houses, they were very critical of every single thing.
Yeah.
So
I'm telling you, both opposites are tough. It's just, but like,
what's your absolute ideal, if you could paint a picture of the perfect client with a perfect like price point and need?
oh my gosh, I love this question because when I see the form, I love a client that one knows that they're moving to Austin because I can't tell you how many people
Like have a job.
like have a job
Yeah.
and are moving to Austin, because there are people that will tell me, oh, I don't know if I'm moving to Dallas or San Antonio. And I'm like, well, if you don't know, I don't really know how to like really target anything because you still don't know where to move. So it's like people that are decisive are the ones I love working with, and they're ready to make decisions and they're quick at them. The ones that like linger, it's just tough. So, okay, so I like that they know that they're moving to Austin. They have a job, and probably price point is around like, I would say like for like a 1-bedroom, 16 to like 2100 sort of a thing is kind of like a good sweet spot. I'll be able to help them find being close to the city, because a lot of people tell me I want location and I want to be steps away. Like that's always the thing with everyone.
Steps away. Nothing is steps in Austin.
Like, but everyone's thing is I want to be walking distance, and I'm like, so does every single person that contacts me. And I'm like, you guys, with that comes like a big price point, you know, and I'll get ones that are like 1200 that are like, you know, I want the floor to ceiling windows, like a brand new community, like 5 minutes from downtown. And I'm like, no, like we're going to be 20 minutes away, something probably not as new or hopefully new within that price point. But yeah, just people that are decisive, have the job locked down, know they're moving, are ready to make a decision that weekend. Like if you're filling out my form, I want clients that are like, I'm ready to make a decision, because if not, if we send them a list and they're not ready, it's again like that annoying follow up, which we don't want to bug them, but it comes off, I feel like, in a way like, hey, are we ready? Are we ready? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, I feel like those are the people we eventually don't close because they don't know what they want or they're not really ready, you know?
Yep.
Like you just fill out my form. You got to be ready to pull the trigger and make decisions, because I'm ready. When I get that form, by that day or that weekend at the latest, your tours are scheduled. Like we are ready to get you what you want, you know, and especially if it falls within that 60-day time frame, like we want to pull the trigger, because if we wait too long, then the ones that were going to be available for your time frame already got taken up by the millions of other people that were looking. So now you're going to pick a move-in date that's either further out, and then that won't make sense for you because now you're moving and now you're going to have to put your stuff in storage because now you don't have a place for a couple of days, so you're spending more money. You know what I mean? So it's vital when a locator tells you it's time to start. We know what's out there. Let's go. And you're just like, I'm going to wait last second. Then we're running the risk that the apartments that you might have liked are taken, or the prices have gone up because now that new community got leased up super quick. So now they decided to raise prices, you know? So again, like we're not here to pressure you or whatever. We're telling you like knowledge from doing this out of experience, what happens when clients don't jump or don't know what they want to do.
Yeah. During the peak work from home time of like end of 2020, I felt like I got so many people who were moving from a dense city. They're moving from, you know, the Chicago, New York type of places. And they said, I'm either moving to Austin or Denver or Miami, and I'm just going to look at some places in all of them. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, so I got to sell you on the city. I got to sell you on the rental. I got to get you everything here. And then even if you're fully committed, you're still going to take your other 2 trips.
Right.
Yeah, those were the most difficult ones to work with. And,
I agree. It's difficult. It's like,
yeah, I do love when people are. I think I really love the out of town people the most.
Same. The relos.
Yeah, I would say those people trust you the most. They need you the most. And then I like the ones that are forced to move by their job. So again, the relos.
We love relos. Okay, I also love locals. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like because they have that like the availability, or not availability isn't the word. I mean, they can just go tour whenever. They like drive by, they're like,
Oh, and I tell you what sucks even more.
what?
Every single apartment, since no apartment really wants to pay locators, they'll offer, you'll see it posted in every single elevator, $500 refer a friend.
Oh, I hate
And
those.
everyone has a friend who's like, oh, you're looking for an apartment? Come to my place. Give me $500.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the friend ends up getting it. And I'm like, but
Yeah.
we just spent 3 weeks looking at other apartments. And then they get the deal last second.
There
and-
was one, it was Amly 300. They were paying 100%. My client was getting a 2-bedroom, $2,800.
Yeah.
And his sister also lived there. And he's like, well, my sister said she'd get $500. I said, look, I'm going to be frank with you. I've known you for a couple years now.
Yeah.
I'm going to get $2,800 from this. I will give your sister $500 of it if that will make you happy. And then I will give you another $100 just for doing it.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, okay,
Okay.
that works.
Yeah.
He's like, you don't need to give me the extra. That's fine.
And like more than anything, like I just tell clients, like, listen, like this is a full-time gig. Like I live off of this commission, like, and you have to think about the things that we also pay for, like MLS, apartment data, if your company has fees that you have to pay, like they have a cut and everything. So it's like, you think we're also taking this huge cut when in reality, we're also not. And this is what we need to live our lives. And like we've talked about before, apartments can take out to a year to pay us for helping you move. So it's just like, we're struggling too. Like we're trying to close as many people as we can too. So I don't know, just take that into consideration when last second you decide to go a different direction with someone else. And it's like, we invested all this time and we're here to provide the best customer service. And then you ditch us last second. It really like does like feel awful. I don't know. I don't think people understand how bad it, like we really, I mean, I take it personally because I'm like, dang, like I did everything I could. And then they ghosted or never heard back from them. And it's just like at least our generation, or I wish more people would just be upfront and text and be like, hey, I found something else. I appreciate your time. Even those small gestures at least make me be like, great, I'm glad you did. Thanks for at least letting me know,
I have had people who their genuinity, sure, really impressed me. And they said, hey, I wasn't expecting that I was going to go see this other place. I really like it. I went ahead and applied. I'm sorry, but can I at least like give you a review online? Can I give you something? Like some have even offered to pay me. And I was like, I can't take your money. Like legally I can't. But because I'm not a broker. If I was a broker, I could write them an invoice. But I'll always say, yes, absolutely. Like, write me the glowing review. Yes, I will happily take that.
Yeah.
And I said, one more thing. Could you just, like, share my stuff on your social media?
Yeah.
Just, like, every once in a while when I post a video, just, like, share it to your friends.
I agree. Like, I will take that any day. But this whole ghosting thing that we're so used to these days, I'm just like, I don't know, like just say something
or
versus
even
nothing.
the I'm just not that into you text.
Exactly, like
just
hey,
tell me something.
Exactly, like hey, your service, like I decided to go with someone. That's fine, but just say something so I can not bug you. Like texting you 10 different times, like just save us the time and just say something.
For anyone watching, salespeople don't mind hearing no as much as they mind following up forever with no answer.
Yeah. Agreed.
Save me the time and just tell me. Because I'm not a fit for everyone. I want to be, but unfortunately, I'm not.
Yeah. 100%.
Like, I will mold my personality to anyone the best I can, but in the end,
Okay, so what do you do when people ask you, like, where's a safe area? Or they're like, I looked online and I feel like it's unsafe. And I always tell my clients, listen, I'm not going to recommend a place I personally wouldn't feel safe in, but also do your due diligence. Like, I'm not here to steer you in a certain direction either or tell you what is and what isn't. Like, there are websites where you can look that up. But what do you usually do?
If I were in your position, it was an apartment, I would flip the question to, let's look at places with gated parking. Let's look at places with fob secured doors. Let's look at places with, security guard on staff or whatever's applicable. So I want to flip to the amenities of the apartment. Like, let's look at the building, not the area. With houses, is not the same. I always send them, like, there's a Austin crime map I can send them.
Yeah.
And it'll say, Georgian Acres, you're going to get your house broken into. And I'll usually tell people, I'll be like, look, I'm not, as a realtor, supposed to discuss crime rates. I'm not sure why. I'm also not supposed to discuss school zones, which seems very reasonable for me to discuss. But I say, let me direct you to this website. That being said, the places where I wouldn't purchase would include something that says Breaker, Rundberg, Windsor Park, Georgian Acres, East Riverside. Sorry, I love Riverside though.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of Central Austin is just small.
Yeah.
But I always usually send them to the crime map.
Okay.
I'll say, like, but most of Austin is pretty safe.
That's what I say.
I'll then ask where they're from.
Right.
If they tell me they're from a place I'm from Baton Rouge. It's like the number 3 murder capital of the country by number, and number 1 by, like, percentage of population. Then again, I never once really felt unsafe, like, where not to go.
Yeah.
But I'm like, honestly, Austin's pretty safe by those standards. If someone's coming from Detroit or Chicago or New York, I'm like, we're pretty safe here. Like,
yeah, I agree.
What's the worst that could happen? Your car gets broken into.
Okay, so speaking of car
theft, cars are the biggest issue here.
You guys, it's getting out of control. I think every other apartment that I look up, even if it's brand new, there's car theft already, and I'm just like, what is happening? Like, it's getting so bad. And usually what I tell my clients is like, hey, try to not keep anything valuable in your car. Try to empty it so there's no temptation, first off. But like, I'm just experiencing a lot of that. And it's hard to like help clients move to a certain place that I really like, because now every other apartment is like car theft. And it's just getting out of control.
I agree. And so that's when I usually say, all right, if that is your number 1 priority, let's make sure we have like a parking garage. You can still have it there. So then, like, private garage would also be super important. And then I also say, like, you're going to get your renter's insurance. So make sure it's a line item that's covered. Is your car in the parking lot? You can read your policy.
A good point.
People, you have the ability to read your policy from your insurance agent. Most people don't. They say, okay, $11 a month, sign. That's it. And then they send it into the apartment because that's all they needed to do. But, yeah, make sure your car is covered in there, so at least someone can pay for it. Otherwise, your car insurance will probably cover it, but don't be so sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because I know you probably don't get Google reviews with like houses, obviously, but with apartments, it seems like that's a huge thing that people continue to bring up. Like, there's just so many bad reviews, and I'm like, sometimes it's management companies, right? Like at the beginning it's great, then they switch, and then everything just goes downhill. But I've lived in really great apartments that have now really bad reviews, and it shocks me because I still had a great experience there. And I have to tell clients, like, you know what? Sometimes when you're really mad, you're just more tempted to go write something bad, but that doesn't mean that apartment is absolute trash. Like I've lived at apartments all over Austin now, and I've had a great experience, but what do you have to say about like Google reviews? I used to
get this question a lot because I give a glowing recommendation for a place, and then they'd say, but the review said.
Yeah.
That's when I'll usually say, look, I've leased here before. That's why I know.
Right.
I'd be glad to text my client that I leased to and just ask how they feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I also said, like, 2 things. Like, people write reviews when they're mad. No one's really writing a positive review for an apartment unless it's like a resident contest.
Right.
Like, whereas people are nicer to restaurants. People will write restaurants positive reviews. I don't know why they won't do it for their apartment.
Yeah.
But people also write reviews when they want something. So let's say they want I don't know what I can think of. It was like security deposit back or something. Like they're going to give a bad review until they get what they want. I'm just going to use my own personal example. There's a tree service I used to chop down some trees at one of my flips. I had a really great experience with them. I referred them to my HOA so they could do some work on one of our trees that we're trying to like save but also trim. And they did pretty subpar work. Like it wasn't of the quality of last time. And I like put myself on the line for them. They told me they were not coming back out. They're not going to. I've been dealing with this today. He's like, sorry, we've done what we agreed to. But I was like, it wasn't what we verbally agreed to. Yes, it was what was on your paper, but the paper was kind of vague. I said, also, y'all promised that you would call us before you left so we could check over your work before you left. And no one ever did that. And so he said, sorry, we're not coming back unless you're willing to pay for additional work if it needs to be done. And so, like, unfortunately, I'm going to have to write them a really mean review in order to get what I want.
Yeah.
Which is them to come finish their job. And, like, they're not a bad company. I think there's a miscommunication, but if they're going to be assholes, let's go to town. Good guys, tree service.
Yeah. And I think if the reviews are pretty repetitive, like I've seen places where they're like, there's rats and there's 20 people complaining and it's from 2 weeks ago, then there's probably a rat problem and you most likely shouldn't maybe lease there. But if it was from months ago, we've talked about how management changes, like things could change. And I always encourage my clients like, hey, go tour, go ask, the new leasing office and manager, is this still an issue? And if I have any clients that live there, happy to try to reach out, see if they have any feedback that I can provide, to my client. So
yeah, if there's one-star review among many normal reviews, I'm like, that person was just mad 'cause they wanted something. Yeah, I tell everyone, I'm like, take reviews with a grain of salt if you're going to look at them, but ideally don't.
Yeah.
Like, make your own decision, people.
I agree.
Like, when I'm ordering anything off of Amazon, I've already made the preconceived idea in my head that I
you're
want
gonna get
it.
Yeah.
So I'm only looking for the positive. I see the negative, I'm like, it won't happen to me.
Yeah, I agree. I'm like, what are the chances, Like, I do look at them, but I'm like, I'm going to try it out for myself and then hope for the best, obviously.
Yeah. Well, he's like, what's the worst that could happen on your year lease? You got some cockroaches. Sorry.
Okay, someone did have that recently. Like, woke up with cockroaches on them.
Multiple. Oh my god.
And and they were like, "What do I do?" And I'm like, "Okay, I would definitely leave. Definitely write a review." Well, this is the thing. The goal is to first communicate with the leasing office, not on the reviews. But I think nowadays people are like, skip the communication and jump to the reviews because that's what's really gonna like get them. I think that's the thing. No, like, I'm not saying people don't do it, but sometimes that's when it's going to hit hard and they're going to listen. But now we're getting ratings of 3.0 and lower, and it's just not making our job as locators easy.
Yeah.
I
agree. And a lot of apartments will ask locators to write them reviews.
But I'm like, I'm not going to write a review unless I've personally like lived there, because I don't know what's happening. And
yeah, if anyone asks me to write a review, I write a review about my experience. So if an apartment says, write us a review, I'm coming from the locator standpoint. I'll say, took care of my client, showed the place well. The place looks really nice from our tour.
Yeah.
Application process was easy, paid me within 3 months. I'm going to write that review. I'm not pretending like I lived there.
Yeah.
I had an agent and, an agent I have never like referred business to in another state who I just know casually from like some networking groups, asked me to like help beef up his like Google review page that he just started. And he's like, can you write me a review? And I was like, I'm not going to lie. But I said, is really kind, great in networking groups, provides a lot of information, knows a lot about real estate. I would trust him if I were sending a client his way. No.
Yeah.
I just don't want to write fake shit.
You know what's funny? When I post a lot of my videos, I get people like commenting on my videos like, she doesn't know what she's talking about. The walls are thin. It sucks living here. And I just kind of want to let people know, like, I obviously have not lived there, so I don't know the ins and the outs of everything, but I'm telling you about the apartment complex. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying it's bad. Like, that's something everyone obviously needs to eventually do their due diligence on, but it's wild to me how I feel like sometimes I could get interpreted as not saying the truth, and I'm like, I don't know that. Like, I have never lived there. Like, I'm telling you my experience from touring it within that
Also,
hour.
I don't think you're ever going to say in one of your videos, it's got condo spec walls.
Yeah.
Unless you do. I don't think you do. Like, your videos are mostly about the amenities.
Yeah, I mean, it's just talking about what the prices are, the amenities and the location, but sometimes people tend to say, like, I mean, it's awful living here, like, don't listen to her, and I'm just like, I'm just giving you the facts about where it is and the prices and the amenities. I'm not telling you, like, the walls are great. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
isn't it crazy that those people got your video on their For You page? Like, how great is targeting? But I would probably, if it were me, I would say, hey, thanks for watching. This is great information to know.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be able to know this from just touring.
Exactly.
And then I would say, please let me know when you're looking to lease something else, since it sounds like you're unhappy there. You might need a locator.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, that's a good one.
But the issue is, if someone dogs on your video like that, they're hurting your credibility too.
Exactly. And that's
the worst part.
That's the worst part, because I'm just like, I'm not trying to, like, I don't know all the stuff. Like, I'm just telling you about all the apartments in Austin. And then once we're digging, we'll dig together. But I'm not going to start talking trash about the apartments when I personally have not lived there myself. You know, like, and I don't know those issues, so I'm not going to bring them, and I'm not going to bring them up when maybe other people are having a great experience there, you know?
Yeah, also, what's the point of posting an apartment video that says, oh, here's why this one sucks?
I mean, I don't know.
Some
people want to hear, like, the actual pros and cons, like the truth. And this is the thing. It could be truth for those months, like with the rats and stuff, but those things can change. And I don't need a video that lives on for a year to say there's rats when, like, all of a sudden there's not that issue anymore.
Also, then you
know,
get the case of, like, defamation to the apartment. Like, I don't think it's a road you want to go down.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, I think if you were ever to do like a side by side, which one's better? If you're going to live on South Lamar, would you rather be at this or this? And then I would just compare amenity versus amenity. Be like, their pool is cooler, but their gym is cooler.
Exactly.
I wouldn't be like, their leasing manager, Trey, at Veranda is a fucking asshole. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just saying all the negatives, like, I'm not going to do that. So I'm trying to think what other tips or tricks we have that we can give. Oh, one that we talked about earlier was, if you go to a website and you see that the price is insanely low for whatever reason, let's just say a 2-bedroom pops up in the 1600s and it's at a high rise that it's probably should be $4,000, you should fill out the application, because anytime they mess up on their end, they honor that price point. Like, they will give it to you. Like, I've had multiple clients that actually were like, I just saw this and it's going for $1,300, and I'm like, fill it out. And they do, and they'll honor it. So if you ever see a low price on a website, pull the trigger. Don't even ask questions.
Look for the mistakes.
Look for the mistakes.
Where are my software developers?
Go
here?
for it.
Like, we got some web devs who can absolutely hack in. Not suggesting it, but
so yeah.
I liked your main building fact earlier.
Oh yeah, okay, that's the thing. So another suggestion, and not to say that this happens everywhere, but usually the main building is where most leasing agents are giving their tours to the apartments. They want everything to look good. smell good, you name it, because of course they want to sell you on that apartment complex. But what you don't know is that building 7 and 8 that are way over there have elevator issues, maybe have a couple of pipes broken. I don't know, but that's happened to me, and it's happened to clients that have told me like, hey, like my elevator hasn't been fixed for like 4 months, right? Versus the main one in the main building, the second it doesn't work, 2 or 3 days later, it's getting fixed. So I guess my suggestion would be if you can get into the main building, try to get in there, just because some tend to be forgotten from my experience. What do you think? Or did you not know that?
I didn't know about it, but I feel like it makes sense because I guess in my previous history, I've only leased 2 apartments. I renewed both of them. I at least one in Seattle and one in Austin.
Yeah.
But I was living in the main building of both of them. So I don't know. Can't speak for the other buildings. But I liked that I was in the main building because it was convenient that all the amenities are also attached to the main building.
That too.
Which is the most important part to me. And usually like the parking was closest to the main building. Everything is easier. You get your guest in through the front door. Packages get delivered. So main buildings should get like probably like the lot premium of like if they're charging more money, they should.
Exactly.
So you're also you mail your package. Yeah. Oh, damn it. Wait, it was a good one too.
I'm trying to think what else. What
good
else
things we
I
can
got
clip
for
this
y'all?
later. Damn, that was a good one.
I know, right?
Oh, is there a property management company that like, if someone's like, "Oh, I want to see this," and then you scroll down, and you're like, "Oh, it's them." Like, is there a property management company you just like saw and you're like, "Here
Oh
we
God,
go"?
I don't even want to.
Because
I can't.
I'm usually more excited if someone sends me something that's like Roscoe or Graystar.
Yeah.
Because like the bigger the company, the better chance I get paid. It's the one-off ones that only own one building. Those are the ones that'll stiff you.
Yeah. I mean, trust me, locators talk about this all the time, like where they would rather send clients, and not just because they like pay like on time, but because they just
I have a feeling the way they treat locators also reflects the way they treat their
clients or tenants.
tenants.
Yeah. Locators definitely have a preference. But again, like I try to just stick to being honest about what that client is looking for, no matter what management it is, what reviews it has. Like I just try to help them as much as I can. It doesn't matter to me.
I wish every apartment paid the exact same, even if it was lesser. Like, you know, it's great that some offer 150%. Then you get the others that offer 0. Whereas like there's something else with private owner. Almost all of them, like I'm saying 90% of them offer 30%. Like it's a smaller fee, but when your average, house is like $2,400 and it's like $800. But some will like really need someone there and they'll like jack it up to like 50 and get people's attention. Or, well, now since we're not showing that on MLS, you can do whatever you want. Then some were the ones that would get least the easiest, just because the house is nice to begin with, would go lower. But almost all of them are 30%. I wish every apartment was like flat across the board at 100, or even flat across the board at 50, because then you wouldn't have to be biased like, well, Blue Stream at Loyola is offering 200%, but you're also interested in Lamar Union that's offering $100 flat fee.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, if that's the case, locators are going to push for the 200%.
Naturally,
why would you not? Sort of a thing. Yeah.
I mean, if you're the client and you're like teeter-tottering on which one do I like better, I'm just going to tell you all the beautiful things about the brand new one.
Gosh, one question just came up and now I forgot it. It's going to come to my head.
Why do apartments hate paying locators so much when we're people who bring them business constantly?
I don't know.
There's nothing I love more than sending a referral check to someone who referred me a client.
It drives me nuts that we have to beg to be paid.
Exactly.
I'm like, why work
Our clients
with
paid the security deposit the first day. Our clients paid rent on the first of the month.
like, why work with locators if you're gonna make it so hard to like pay us, you know?
So all of
Like,
my
don't do it.
any transaction I do, like since I first started with All City, goes through Back Agent. Do you all use Back Agent? Well, basically, it's like
But I've heard of it.
it's like
Yeah.
the filing system, whatever. This is how we get our invoices, because you'll have to go through like our office accounting person. And I have it's like $18,000 worth of unpaid things from apartments. But to hell if I'm gonna call Paseo at Bee Caves after my client leased with them November of 2020. This client who I've now leased 3 other places.
Yeah.
And be like,
It's
y'all still owe
wild.
me $640. Or like there's one is like Barton Creek. It's like I don't want to say the wrong name, so I don't want to throw the wrong people under the bus. But I remember the property man.
Yeah.
I want to call it Barton Creek Landing, but that's a whole different apartment. So it's not that, but it's another one similar. And I remember the property management company is called the Connor Group. And they're like, no, across the board, we don't pay commissions. We've never paid commissions. And I was
Yeah.
like, when I toured with my client, you were.
Yeah.
Why would you change that policy after they moved in?
This is why you have to always get it in writing.
And so there was a time where the
Did you?
sketchy apartments, I was bringing like this form that I made and like you fill it in and I had the leasing manager sign.
Okay, well, if
But that was
you
so
had it,
awkward, like with the client with me. It would be great on like the last tour of the day because I could walk right back in and be like, hey, sign this.
well, usually we send those forms after a client fills out an application. So then, like, we have it in writing that they will pay us.
Isn't it fun how apartments are super responsive before the client fills out the application?
That's what I was about.
Then as soon as
I was about to say
they
that.
sign that lease,
Bye.
it's like, hey, can I get their rent amount? He goes, that ain't my job.
I was literally about to bring this up. I'm like, that's another thing that I forewarn my clients. I'm like, okay, if the apartment complex isn't even being responsive from the get-go, like from the get-go, us wanting to tour, like they just don't ever answer their calls, let's just not even entertain it. And I know which properties they are. And I'm like, I'm not sending you any more business. It's just like, if they're not going to answer to you when you want to get to like go there, then when you live there, forget about maintenance, forget about any issue you have. It's going to be a nightmare, right? But like also there are those apartments where they're super friendly from the get-go. You fill out the application and then I get my clients saying like, hey, haven't heard back from the apartment. It's been like a week. Like, did I get approved? Did I not? And I have to call these apartments and be like, can you let my client know if they're approved? Like, this is your job. Like, walk them through the next steps. Like, why am I playing middleman between both of you? Like, it just doesn't look great. And I'm like, is this how it's going to be after they move in? Like, this sort of communication? Like, it's just so bad. I don't get it.
I have a feeling that, well, I know how leasing managers are compensated. It's like most of them are on salary plus like a group bonus, like all of their, units remained
Yeah.
rented, maintenance requests were handled. They get the group bonus or whatever. And then there's other ones where it's like they have a smaller salary, but they get an extra commission for each signed lease. And I know their commission changes whether or not there's a locator involved. Like, I'm not.
Yeah.
You can just feel it.
Yeah.
Like,
probably.
and I have a feeling that they're like, oh, I'm gonna do less work because there's a locator. I don't know. And
I
I'm
don't
not-
know what it is, but I'm telling you, that's another reason why I'm like, use a locator, because we genuinely know the places that are unresponsive. Like, do you want to live in an amazing place where like the leasing staff just is never there for you? And I'm upfront, and I even tell the leasing agents like, hey, like if this is the customer service that we're gonna get from the get-go, I will not send you business because I wouldn't want to live here. I wouldn't want my clients to have a terrible experience with you guys and ruin it for a year and be a nightmare for them. So that's another reason. And a lot of people don't know if they're coming in from out of town, or they're not going to know these things because when they go to the office, they're going to give you obviously the best impression. But behind the scenes, we're getting client feedback. We know the leasing office really well. We know who works there, who's responsive, who's not responsive. And we're going to give you all that intel if we're good locators that want to keep our clients like in the loop. So
Yeah.
use
Okay.
us. Me and my team.
Yeah, that was a mic drop moment. It's like what? Oh, like in the leasing staff. On the other hand, having an incredible leasing staff makes the building so much better. Like,
So much better.
anytime I'm touring with a client, I feel like the question they always ask that they're not allowed to answer is like, what kind of people live here?
Yeah,
like,
they
what's
can't
the
answer that.
demographics? And I understand fair housing violation. I always flip to tell me about your resident events. Like, what kind of events do people go to? Okay, people go to your happy hours. They go to your Taco Tuesday. They go to your bachelor watch night on the rooftop lounge. That says everything you need to know about the residents there. If they said we're having, knitting parties, well, you probably know what the residents look like there.
But also, when I've taken my clients to go tour, and sometimes they give me the keys to go look at something, and I'm in an elevator, not with my client at the moment, but I'm in the elevator. I run into people. I do like to be like, hey, how do you like living here? How are you? I'm just like touring, and they'll tell me. I've had people tell me like, don't lease here. Like, I hate it, and they'll give me their feedback, and I'm like, oh, interesting. They're like, we've had break-ins, the elevators never work, they never fix them, stuff like that. And I feel like as soon as I hear that, I have to tell my client. I hate not keeping them in the loop. So whether that's true or not, I'm going to tell them what I heard. And I'm like, this is what I heard. Just know that that's happening. Or if the client's with me, I don't mind asking. And there are people that will be like, I love it here. I'm moving here. I love it. Like, you guys should too. And that at least motivates my client to be like, okay, if they're happy, this is a good spot,
I do the same thing at both apartments and like neighborhoods. If someone's like, I just don't know this neighborhood that well, I'll like wait till I see someone like walking their dog, and I'll be like, hey, sorry to annoy you. How much you pay for rent in Austin? No. I'll say, hey, what do you think of this neighborhood? And,
Yeah.
well, they bought into it at one point. So
Yeah.
most people who own a neighborhood, they're pretty proud of it. So it rarely ever goes against my favor. I mean,
see, with apartments, it's like
some people are honest. But if you had like the leasing agent with you, do you think that person would be more honest?
No, I think they wouldn't
They
say
would lie.
anything. Yeah. They're not inclined to be like, yeah, I hate it here in front of a
It'd
new
be so
client.
awkward.
Yeah, that would be so awkward. That's not going to happen,
But on the other hand, I've had leasing agents who have just been so phenomenal. Like for me as a tenant, have just been such awesome people, and they were like, if you're moving to the city fresh, like the leasing person is like your first friend in that city, and like maybe they're not a close friend, but they're someone you're gonna see in the elevator, and you're gonna at least have like little small talk with, and that's important. And like I used to go to like all little resident events, whatever stupid thing they were doing that month.
Yeah.
Just because I like networking and meeting people, but like having like a super fun, like peppy little leasing
Yeah.
team.
It makes a
difference.
huge, like, okay, remember how I told you I like the Met up in North Austin? Because it's a beautiful property. But more than anything, the leasing agent there, Noah, I was like, I will recruit you. Your customer service, like, spot on, smiling, like, enthusiasm for the apartment, enthusiasm because he actually enjoys his job too. He likes being a leasing. You can tell. And it just made me want to lease there even more because I'm like, if you're going to stick around and you're going to be this friendly and this on point with your emails and your phone calls or whatever, like I would live here. It's kind of that extra mile when the leasing agents are just like, we love it. We love our clients. We're always attentive. I'm like, that's where I want to lease, not the apartments where there's no chat. It's just awkward silence between the leasing. You can tell that they just hate their day just by their body language and how they're not interacting with me. And it's like, you know what? Like the place is okay, but you're making me even not want to even ever recommend a client here because if they're going to interact with you, it's just probably not going to go well.
Okay, so for your locators on your team are usually recommending that they do more send or escort?
I mean, it depends. Like, this is the thing. When we work in volume, like we do,
You have no choice but to send.
yeah. But if it's escort, they're going to go. Like, they're going to prioritize the people that need escort. But, like, can they escort if there's 10 people touring one weekend? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
So when we tell that to our clients, and I ended up coming up with like an apartment guide that answers, it has like all the apartment lingo, all the questions to ask while you're touring, how to get quotes, you know, to ask for that, to take their ID. I send it to them the night before. They also have these guides as well. So if we're not there, we're always like, listen, we're not the ones that actually give you the tour. The leasing agent's the one that does that. But here are all the questions that I would have asked if I was there, right, to support you. So just be sure to take this, you know, document with you, and it's going to cover everything to how to apply, go to the website, fill out the unit or the application to get it off the market. So we try to, like, if we're not there, we're going to provide you with everything you need to make sure that you're asking everything.
Yeah. I felt like when I first started in Austin, like I was escorting everyone because I guess I also needed to see the properties.
Yeah.
I just felt like having me there, I don't know that I necessarily helped them through anything, but I was able to see their reactions. I was able to understand their conversations,
Gauge.
their questions and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then business picked up. I let more on my plate, and I'm like, I got to deal with people who are making me $10,000, other people who are making me $900. So it's like I had to prioritize, and I'm like, I'm just going to start sending everyone.
Yeah.
And I was still going to try. I was still going to like follow up after, but my drop-off rate was much more.
Really?
Like a lot of people were dropping off because I guess they just didn't feel as connected. They never met me in person. They, in some cases, might have never talked to me over the phone. Like they filled in an online form. I texted them. I scheduled some showings, and then if they didn't feel like following up, they wouldn't. If they didn't like the apartments, they would just go with somebody else. So then market got slow again. I was like, you know what? Maybe I should go back to my roots and should start escorting again.
Yeah.
And I did find that like once I started escorting again, like I think for someone who doesn't know what we're talking about with escorting, going to the tours with them, like I found that people like had a better. Obviously, you're gonna have a better connection. You know, you know the locator.
I find that interesting because I've kind of had this argument with other locators too, where they're like, oh, if you tour, you know, you might close them more or build that rapport if you jump on calls. And I can tell you, like, no, I've gone in person and I've jumped on calls and I will still get ghosted. Mm-hmm. And I will put a lot of time and effort, and I don't think that determines if that's going to close. You know, like the process that we've stuck to when we like talk about apartments and give them that extra knowledge as to why they should tour there or why it's going to work out for them and all that stuff. Like we're already showing that we know what we're talking about. And again, like I don't think people have ever had those guides before. And that was something like that I implemented because I thought, you know what, it is weird if I don't go. Like, how are they supposed to know what to do without me? Maybe I should go that extra mile. And once we developed that apartment guide, it's been a game changer because now the client's like, I would have never thought of these questions, but thank you so much. You know what I mean? Because it's like, we're having your back. We would love to be there, but there's 10 other people touring and we want to make sure that everyone's schedule is running smoothly. So I need to be by my computer to make sure I can cancel or reschedule, make sure everything's flowing properly. You can always call me or text me. But I think if you give them something like that, they shouldn't be like offended or drop you when, you know, you're still going that extra mile. You're just not going to be there. So that's the thing.
I was saying your tours at this time go to leasing office.
So that's the thing. That's kind of been like a game changer for us, you know, providing again like that extra like something to make sure that they're being taken care of even if we're not there.
That's good. There's nothing worse than when you have a client who you sent and they'll text you like, there's nobody at the leasing office. Or like, how do I get in the door?
So, yeah, that's happened to me. And I'm like, to kill them.
And it's like, and I'm like, okay, are you sitting in a chair? Like, yes, I made it inside.
Yeah.
And there's nobody at the desk. Correct. And I'm like, okay, just wait for them to come back.
Yeah. So that's what I'll tell them. I'm like, this is why it's. So this is the thing. Every time I schedule a tour, I used to do it verbally on the phone. I would call apartments and I'm like, yeah. And they're like, yeah, we got you in. Then the next day, that leasing agent wasn't working, or they never actually put it in, even though they told me that. And then it was like my word versus the apartment complex. So what I've learned to do is do it on the website, because then your client's getting a confirmation email, and I have something to back myself up with. And I'll tell my client, did you get confirmations for everything? Because if you show up and they're not there, we can be like, well, it was scheduled on your website and you need to like tour us. You know what I mean? And if they're not there at the moment, I also tell them, hey, there might be only one person on property. They might be late doing another tour. Just give it a little minute. And typically they're just running late from like another tour and they'll show up. But
so the way I do that, I will, for the most part, only want to schedule apartments that you can schedule online.
yeah.
Because waiting for a response, or apartments, the leasing people don't answer the phone reasonably because they're probably out on property. Like,
Right.
They need someone in the office every day, or a call center at least.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not how it works. And like, I don't hold that to them, but it's annoying. So if I can't schedule online, I'll do it over email. But
Right.
my favorite is to go online, and for my client, if I have been emailing them versus text, this changes. So I'll obviously put their name on the phone number. If I have been texting that client, I'm going to put their phone number in my email. If I was emailing that client, I'm going to put my phone number in their email. And then there's a little notes tab of like, I'm saying booked by locator Chase Cangelosi at All City Real Estate, 100% fee. And that way, if they ever have to go back into their notes, they can see I put that there.
Yeah.
And that was
I do that too.
That was not like the client scheduling themselves. But that way, and I always say like, yes, I want to receive text. So the client either got the confirmation email or text message, whichever I think they communicate better on. So that way, at least we both have it.
Yeah. I do that too. But like, honestly, another thing I tell my clients is like, try to schedule all your tours before the weekend, because that's when everyone usually can go.
Everyone wants a tour on Saturday.
Exactly. And then
That's
it's like
fact.
nowadays, like you can't just walk in like before. Like if you don't have an appointment scheduled, you're not going to get in most likely, you know? So that's something I always tell them, by Friday at the latest, let me know so I can try to get you the most, like, make it make sense for the schedule that I'm doing for you. So you're not having to come and go everywhere. Like I want to get you the best time slots before they're taken. Because come weekend, it's hard to get you in. I'm always like, you can try to swing by, see if they help you, but most likely not. So just forewarning your clients
Everyone
too.
wants a tour Saturday at noon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say if someone wants a tour Saturday, like you need to let me know by Thursday morning.
Right.
Because most of their websites will say you can't book, even 24 hours in advance.
Yeah, and then you can't even pick like a good time, because I'm like, there's only like a 3:45. Like you got to make it work.
And they want to see 4 places.
And they
it's
wanna
like,
see 4.
Okay, well, 9:45 is available here and 3:45 is available.
Yeah.
Sorry,
And that's
entertain yourself in the middle.
exactly. So that's why I'm like, let's hit it by Friday at the latest so we get you the best times. You're in. So, yeah.
That's good.
I think that's good for now, right?
This was a lot. I thought we were going to do like...
Me too. We balled out.
It's 8
Chase.
o'clock. That was longer than our actual podcast.
I know. But that was great. We got a lot out.
I agree.